Good afternoon and welcome to episode 20 of At the Coffee Table Podcast. Can't believe today's episode from At the Coffee Table Podcast is titled When You're Stuck. When you're stuck and you just don't know what direction to go in. I wanted to do this podcast today, both from personal experience, from current events, and some conversations I've had. If you'd like, comment, share this with anyone that you might feel get any value out of it. I'd love to have your comments, what you think of At the Coffee Table Podcast, and anything that we could change or make better. With episode 20, I'm talking about what happens when you're stuck. I had a couple of conversations, 3 of them, that I can bear. And they feel the need to pivot. Now, I went a long time with this type of kind of empty feeling of what direction to go in. Not only did I have personal issues going on, but professionally, I felt very unsatisfied. And some of the conversations I've had here recently, business wise, is getting bored when you don't have that drive to do something else. And I think that happens to a lot of people, especially when you're kind of high strung. The gears are always turning, and you're always trying to do something better and keep that momentum going, no matter what it is, if it's personal, business, um, professional, anything. And I've talked about it in the past where a lot of I come from public safety, and in the public safety world, if you're a police or a firefighter, you get to work 20 years and retire. If you're 911, unfortunately, in New York State, you get to work 30 years old if you're lucky. So you're pushing to get to retirement. Everybody, they're trying to get enough money to retire comfortably, trying to get to that 20-year mark or 25 or 30-year mark. And I've worked with some people that were trying to get to that 30-year mark to get that max benefit, and they're just tired. You're 26, 27, they're just tired. They don't want to do it anymore. They're burned out. Me personally, I got burned out at 16, 17, 18 years until I finally made a change and left at year 19. The 911 world is just as difficult as the police or fire world, and fortunately for them, they get to retire after 20 years of service. I know what it's like to just kind of be like, ugh, this has zero meaning for me anymore. I have zero motivation. I love the job, but I just don't want to do the job. I don't want to do shift work or whatever might be in your situation. So, for me, I went and I was an adult learner. I went back to college in 2012, or sorry, 2008, decided to get my bachelor's degree. Got my bachelor's degree in a curriculum in fire service administration. Can't do anything with it. Spent tens of thousands of dollars for something to hang on my wall. Looks pretty. Really can't do much with it, but I got the higher education. Personal accomplishment. We'll chalk it off as that. Then in 2016, with still no real drive, motivation to do anything, I decided I needed to learn something other than public safety. So I went to a friend of mine who's a very successful real estate agent and runs his own real estate team. And I went to him and I said, "Hey, I need to learn something other than public safety." And his reply was, "Well, go take the course, come back and talk to me." And I've told this story before, but I think it brings value. So I went, took the course, started in real estate the next year. And that's when the business bug got me, and being an entrepreneur got me, which drove me more to not wanting to do shift work and be in public safety anymore, to being an entrepreneur and running a business or businesses. And it took all the way to 2019 where the perfect storm hit for me. Perfect storm to take on a job that still paid the bills, still paid a salary, still works in public safety, but I get to work from home. I have a home office. I travel sometimes. I have people where we all share ideas and we're all masterminding and we're all trying to make the company better. Exactly what I was looking for. It took a lot of thinking, a lot of consideration to walk away from a state retirement. But realistically, these days, state retirement doesn't hold as much weight as it did in the past. My father was a tier one state employee, laughs all the way to the bank when he gets his retirement check, never once had to contribute to his retirement. New York State can't sustain that. They haven't been able to sustain that in a number of decades. Um, so now the tiers have gone up. I was tier four. I had to only pay into the state retirement for 10 years. Not bad. But now you have younger people getting hired as state retirement employees that have to pay into their retirement system for their entire career. And I used to joke with younger employees that started working at the 911 center I was at, because at 25 years old, they were probably career. Nobody should be. So just to stick around for that state retirement check and to get your, who knows, $58,000 a year to live off of in retirement, kind of unfulfilling. We made differences in the lives of people that had the worst day ever when they called for help. And I've always patterned my work, my businesses on being able to help people. So, it's very important that I continued in that line. So I decided to pivot and go into a, go into a different format, so to say. So to be able to go and um, start consulting with agencies to make a difference, and um, to be able to go through and um, decide, what, this is the direction I wanted to go in. And I kind of lost my train of thought there, but this is the direction I wanted to go in. This is the opportunities I wanted to try to provide for myself. But talking to friends of mine that were, recently, that said that, oh, you know what, I got 4 years left. I got 1 year left till I can retire. I can walk out. Well, then what? And then I got to speak with somebody that I know that's very young into their career. That's just, it wasn't what they thought it was going to be. They've had some rough times, had a rough patch, and started to look elsewhere to get out of the position that they're in. But then researching that got very scary. So now it's a very scary situation where now you're leaving comfort, salary, benefits, retirement, to go do something where you may not have that, and you got to make it up on your own. Um, so it's one of those things where you gotta sit down. You may have to discuss it with your significant other, weigh the pros and the cons. But isn't it better than being stuck? Being stuck and spinning your wheels and just having no real purpose. Um, there's been other influencers out there that have talked about being stuck and making those pivots. And there's people that are a lot more qualified than I am, that have been in business or an entrepreneur a lot longer than I have been, maybe a personal development entrepreneur, that that have better insight. But this is kind of my personal monologue towards making that pivot and not being stuck anymore. And I think that for a lot of us, it sometimes it takes a real kick in the pants to make that decision. It may be some kind of personal epiphany that all of a sudden, I need to do something else. I need to go in a different direction. I talk to my business partners all the time about big, scary goals. And this is a podcast I'm going to do another time about big, scary goals and achieving those big, scary goals. Um, and I've learned that, if it's not right in front of you, if it's not written down, if you're not writing it down, it may or may not. It may be easy just to do it because it's a big pivot or make that change to leave safe and to go into not safe. Can you get comfortable being uncomfortable, because a lot of times that I've learned in business and entrepreneurship, you really have to get comfortable being uncomfortable, because it's always a learning experience. You're always going to get presented with something you don't know, that you have to learn, and somebody that knows more about what you're doing than you do. Organization, maybe your organization is stuck, and just with current events, with COVID, with social unrest, and all this, businesses failing, um, people losing their jobs, businesses losing sales, losing money to go have people in the restaurant. So if businesses can pivot, and business can pivot, actually, if certain, so if you're an organizational leader, if you're a business leader, and you're not including your people in these conversations, empowering your people in these conversations to help make the business better, to keep the business rolling along, maybe coming up with new ideas, to provide maybe a different service or a different product to your current customers and clients, and maybe draw on some new customers, by having these different products and services. This is stuff that, if you haven't considered this by now, you're kind of behind the eight ball. So, maybe you're a business that hasn't, embraced social media and getting your company and your company's story out on social media. If you haven't embraced that yet, you're really behind the eight ball, because you're missing, a large pool of potential customers and clients. Um, Traditional, marketing and so on has its place, but if you're a business or an organization that provides a product or service, and you haven't tapped in where everybody is right now, because if they have that extra time off, a majority of the population's on social media. So if you're not on social media as your business and organization, and telling your story and building your brand that way, and I've learned this over the last so many months and a couple of years, you're really kind of missing out on, a pool of customers or clients that you may not normally tap into. So these are just some ideas I wanted to share. It was a story I wanted to share, about being stuck and making changes that are best for you, maybe best for your family, best for your business or organization. But I'd love to hear your story if this is something that resonates with you and something you might have gone through. I'd love, drop in the comments or send me a DM, share it with me. I'd love to hear about it. And again, I'm going to do a podcast here in the near future about those big scary goals when it comes to, you know changing from one industry to another. So that being said, I'd love it if you'd like, comment, and share with anyone you might feel would get any value out of this. And until next time, have a great day.